Okay, so I had wanted to do live, but it's not working. Um, I I wanted to talk about nerves, just nerves. Um, when you um, have to do something, or even when it's something you want to do, but you're nervous about it. Um, how you get through that, being nervous. I was just interrupted, so um, um, so there have been a lot of things that um, I've done in life that I wanted to do and I was excited to do and eager to do, but anxiety just sucked the pleasure out of it entirely. Um, at least, well, no, the whole time. The stress that creates is like cumulative, and so like when I like when you're a kid and you want school to start, um, and at the same time you don't because you're anxious, and you get there and you don't, maybe you don't know anybody, or even worse, the kids you did know are different now and they're hanging out with different people. Either way, you're alone, and how do you make friends? I was always very eager to learn new things, and and I love going to school, and at the same time, it was extremely stressful because of anxiety. And the same, and but the sucky thing is, at least when I was a kid, you had to go. Nowadays, kids that have a lot of anxiety and stuff have options. They have special classes for kids with disorders and disabilities, which anxiety is now considered, or they could be homeschooled. Not when I was a kid, I had to go. Um, and so every day was stressful, and each day would add some stress so that it grew and grew and grew. And to, until there was sort of a breaking point where I just completely lose it at school. Um, the same goes, let's see, go through school. When I was a teenager, I did find, um, I'm guessing this is going directly to social anxiety. Um, what are you doing? No. Dog's in the trash. Um, I found a group of friends that we were really all just misfits, so we fit together just because we didn't belong anywhere else. So it's not like we kind of were alike or anything. We were all very different, and that's how we were the same. Um, and every weekend we would go to this club, and so all these different kids, punk rockers, gay kids, we would all go to this under 21 club on the weekend. And I just like the whole week was just get through school so we could get to the weekend and go see our real friends. And I'd have a really good time there, and I got along and I made friends, but it was still very stressful. It would be, at first, it would be like on the ride there, I would get like physically tense and kind of hyped up, which I guess is normal. And then we'd be in line to get in, and I would start getting shaky and starting to feel claustrophobic, because it was all these teenagers, and the line would start to go into the club, and it was this enclosed space. And I was I have this thing about crowds. I'm not afraid of crowds. I'm not claustrophobic in crowds. I'm afraid of getting lost in crowds. And so I have been known to like freak out, panic. Like if I go in with someone, I'm like attached and get really bent out of shape, and some people would think that was kind of weird, like at concerts or something like that, because I would freak out. Don't leave me without saying where you're going or taking me with you, because if I can't see you, I'm gonna freak out. And like, even as an adult, we go to this giant flea market. Hey. Go to this giant flea market, and I was not doing very well then, and there was all these people walking back and forth and stopping and booze, and it all looked the same, and I couldn't be. Part of it was the problem I had with the ECT, because I couldn't figure out where I was. I mean, we went every Sunday, and I still could not figure out where I was in relation to anything else. So telling me I'm gonna be over meant nothing to me. As soon as I couldn't see my mom or my stepdad, I would just have a freak out, and I would get really angry at them for not being considerate of making sure I'm still with them. So I had a degree of that. So at the same time, I'm like hyped up to see people I want to see, but I don't know what's going to happen. I don't like not knowing what's going to happen. It's probably the biggest thing that feeds my social anxiety, is not knowing what's going to happen. I don't like surprises. I like to rehearse things. I like agendas. I like lists. I like to know what to expect. And so, I mean, to the point of being pretty rigid. And so it was a combination of pleasure and super duper anxiety. Only being able to socialize with people I knew very, very, very well. Um, but I would have to say that that was the freest, though, in all my life that I felt. Part of it was the music, because when our music came on, because they would take turns to mainstream, and then they would play punk and dance for a while, and and just dancing and stuff, I didn't feel anxious or anything. I had fun, and I liked that. Um, because the people around me I was feeding off of them, and we were having fun, and um, there was no talking. Uh, that's the most difficult. Um, and then, so I move on from being a teenager to going to nursing school. So I get to nursing school. Oh my gosh, talk about stress, anxiety, so bad. And um, especially because pretty much everyone there was mainstream. Uh, they were preppy, is what the word me and my friends had used. Um, Straight, preppy, uh, your typical person that wanted to be a nurse all their life, and suddenly I'm in a dorm with these people. I'm like, I don't really fit here. And I met this guy just like in the first week, and he had a pin on his jacket, and it was an upside down pink triangle, and I knew what that was from my being a teenager with gay friends. And so when we were away from friends he grew up with that didn't know what that meant, when we were away from them, I was like, dude, I know what that means. I'm cool. You know, so we were cool together, and so I made a really good lifelong friend right away. So that made things a lot easier. Um, I did morph myself to fit in to the mainstream, because to me I felt like it would be easier. And I did make friends with some of these people, but I had none of the same values and interests, and I was really kind of living a lie. Um, but it was easier because I was living in the dorm and I had to be around them all the time. And so, was that anxiety producing? Not once we were friends. Basically, we just hung out. But it was stressful being somebody I wasn't. Um, and it was probably the wrong thing to do, but I thought it was the right thing to do because I was trying to make family happy by being what they dreamt their grandchildren and children would, succeed in And I just wanted to give more of that and be more of that for them. So my advice is to never live your life for other people. it it's a waste of your time. I'm talking to the microphone, it's so funny, like it's a person. It's We have a short time on this earth. Don't spend any of it pretending to be anybody but yourself. I wasted like 4 years. It was very stressful. The anxiety started to come when we started doing our clinicals, and that meant we had to get together everything. We'd have our patient assigned. We would have to go and look at the patient's chart the night before, the day before, come up with a care plan, meet God early in the morning, and discuss it, and then go up to the floor and take care of our patient. And the anxiety came with the fact that I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I could see my patient on paper and what they were there for and what I was supposed to do for them, but the newness was terribly anxiety producing. And I was being watched. You know, the instructor was coming in and observing you, and I'm not very talkative to strangers. I'm not under those circumstances. I was so concerned about just getting through the day and getting this over with, because I got super grades in the book part, and then we get to our clinicals and I would get B's, which for me made me unhappy. I wasn't used to B's. I got my first C in nursing school, and that I beat myself up for that, but I learned that sometimes passing is the important thing, and we're not going to get A's on everything. Anyway, that's life. So I accumulated stress and anxiety throughout this period until my last year. I started acting very strangely and thinking very strangely, and it was leading to my I was at the perfect age for bipolar disorder to really rear its head, to become obvious. And I was having a lot of trouble with intrusive thoughts, and I would want them to go away, and they would not. They just kept coming and coming and getting worse and worse, and I couldn't stop them unless I did something. And it sounds like OCD, and that's what I was diagnosed with first. When I was 15, depression, but this related to this. It was first diagnosed as OCD because I was having intrusive thoughts, and the only way to get them to go away would be to do certain things, which I guess you could call ritualistic, but then you would have to get more involved ritual to keep the thoughts away. And it's like I knew people, if they knew what was going on, they'd know when I was having them, because I tap on my head like that. I don't do it much anymore, because when I have this problem, I have learned that thoughts don't hurt people, and I just let them come in and out. Just come in and out. I know what they are. I don't care why they're there. I know I'm not a bad person for having them. I just take a deep breath. They come into my brain. I take a deep breath and blow out and let them go out with a breath. But I will still do this thing. And so if anybody knew, which nobody does, except you guys and pretty much you guys, that's what I would do. It would be almost like if somebody had a headache or a toothache or something and they go like that, and it's like that's what I'm having, that's very specific intrusive thought, and it must go away. And I also avoid certain like movies that I have like a list I'm not allowed to watch because they, anyway. So back to my story. So I started having these intrusive thoughts, and they're getting more and more elaborate, and I'm feeling the need to do behaviors, and I was a complete nut job at my last year of nursing school. I'm shocked I managed to graduate. I got really good grades. With the exception of one or two, like chemistry and pharmacology was really hard. But that I managed to function all the way through. I did have 3 instructors get together and call me to the office, and they talked to me and they were like, we're really worried about you, that you're acting whatever, and I just said that, well, with all the stress of clinicals and stuff, I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm just a little stressed. I don't know what else you're talking about. But I knew exactly something was off. And I really wished it would go away. And then I graduated and took about 3 months or so off. And that problem with the intrusive thoughts subsided and everything fell back into normal place. And excuse me. So stress and anxiety were at a low, and I was healthier mentally. And then I started my first job. And about 3 months in, I started having the intrusive thoughts again. And that's when I finally, when it got really bad, I just don't know how to explain it without revealing how creepy intrusive thoughts are. Intrusive thoughts are not thoughts that people act on, unless they have some other pathology going on, I guess. But it can be a symptom of mania, and that's when I would have a mixed kind of episode. And like for me, it was usually triggered by something I saw, and I would see it, over and over and over and over and over, and my brain would add to it, and I couldn't not do it. I it was I couldn't function because it was there over and over and over and over. And the stress was leading to this. The anxiety of working in a environment where every room I went into was a new patient and a new situation. So I had anxiety all the time from social anxiety, and I had untreated, undiagnosed bipolar disorder, and stress. And so, well, um, it was just awful. I'm going to tell you something similar, but I'm not going to tell you exactly what mine were. But let's say someone who does have OCD, say they all they can think about are the germs in the bathroom. There are germs in the bathroom. There are deadly, pathological, killing germs in the bathroom. I have to clean the bathroom. If I just clean the bathroom, I'll feel okay. So you go and clean the bathroom. I don't think I got the drain really well. There's all kinds of yuck in the drain that it could fester and kill me and hurt people. So you get out a toothbrush and you're scrubbing the bathroom with the toothbrush, and well, you don't know what germs got there in the past half hour, so you better go in and do it again. It's like it, over and over, and it relieves, the actions relieve the stress and anxiety, just for a little bit, but each time you have to do more, and it's becomes consuming. And I believe that is when the first time I sought psychiatric help, and I thought I had OCD, because there is a form of OCD that involves obsessive compulsive. And so they prescribed me Zoloft, and it only made it worse because what I actually had was bipolar. And so they upped it, and it only made it worse. And so I at the time somewhere I had met somebody and become engaged, and decided to move across the state. So I resigned from that job, and I took about 6 months off, and because I wasn't having the stress and anxiety, I started to feel a lot better. In fact, I felt really good, and all that was gone. And so I get a new job, and a new nursing job where I moved to, and sure enough, right in the third year or so, the same thing happened. Oh, I was up all night on. Now I had the internet, so now I was up on the internet. Just it was just insane, and I was like recording stuff on VCRs and collecting books and stuff on a certain topic, and I had this like stash that was my stash. It was, but to me, collecting things is what relieved the stress and anxiety and made the thoughts go away. But I had to keep getting more or doing more. And I started to really lose contact with reality because I was not sleeping. And I would, it got dangerous. I was messed up. um, I, I, the, I felt that the subject of my repetitive thoughts, if that person did not exist, then I wouldn't have this problem. Now, that's scary, but I was in the throes of the most worst mixed episode ever. I hadn't I didn't sleep for 2 weeks, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm not saying I might have dozed a little bit. I was truly awake for 2 weeks straight. At night, I would walk the streets in my pajamas or lay down on the porch. The whole world was sleeping, and it was quiet, and my head was just raging with thoughts that I didn't want them there. I felt awful. I felt evil. I felt dirty. I felt horrible. And I just wanted them to stop. What? Please, somebody stop this. And I went to my new primary physician, and I said, I can't stop talking. I can't stop moving. I can't sleep. And I'm like on the edge of my seat bouncing, and she's like, has anyone ever mentioned bipolar disorder to you ever? I was like, no, but now that you mention it, it kind of fits. And so I started on my journey, and I did end up, I didn't work for a year, and then I got disability. I didn't have, I finally learned how to deal with, it seems that when a certain sensation comes through me that accompanies a thought, I know exactly what it is. I know exactly where it came from, and it has nothing to do with me as a person. It is bipolar disorder fucking with my head. So I just let it live its existence, and if I don't fight it, it has no power, and it just dissipates. It might revisit, but I have to purposely not follow up on the thought. It would be like, wow, that's a pretty pink color right there. I really like that pink color. Check my computer for every pink color there is, every name for pink. I have to let it exist, the thought, and move on. If I fight it, that's when I really, really feel the need to act and like to do something, a behavior to mitigate the anxiety. And so it's never gone away. I just discovered a way to, first of all, understand it doesn't make me a horrible person, and that that my bipolar disorder is not gone in that direction in many, 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 many years. The a- a- addition to the antipsychotics um, helped. Let's see. Oh, I did have. I'll give you a little idea of what I'm talking about, and then I'm totally not talking about what I meant to, but and I've learned that I've been doing this obsessive thing since I was a kid. Um, but okay, so in my third, you'll see a pattern. Anxiety and stress leads me to instability. Um, so my third job, sure enough, right about the third year, I saw a movie at the theater called Moulin Rouge. This movie was made, it's like a Manic's wet dream. There's music all over, beat, just beat, colors and colors and dancing and movement and singing and just it, it was like I was just prime when I saw it. I could not stop thinking about it. I my brain latched onto it so strongly that I would go and see it at one theater and then drive to another theater and see it like 2 or 3 times in one day, um, because it made me feel so euphoric and good. And that's how it starts. And it's not till later when it starts getting dark um, and intrusive, where you have absolutely no control. Like you're trying to work, you're trying to get things done, and it just keeps going and going and going. And the only way you can relieve it is to watch the movie or look up clips from the movie, pictures from, and so it it is a very predictable pattern for me. It seems like 3 years of stress is as much as I can handle. Although I was at the shelter a lot longer. Um, but I had some really good therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. Um, I highly recommend it. If but you got to get somebody good. Um, and so, kind of what I was getting at is my face has been getting hot every time I talk to you guys this past few weeks. And I don't know why. But it's very uncomfortable. It's very hot. Is that I am now tomorrow. I am scheduled to spend about an hour with somebody and their dog to go over some things that they need help working on. And if it were just me and the dog, I'm gonna say come over and spend some time with your dog. You can leave, you can go in the other room. I'd be fine. But this is something that needs to be, the owner needs to work with the dog. And it's not really the owner, it's the dog is her daughter's. and it's supposed to be her support dog, emotional support, and her daughter's 18, and they'd already gone through class, um, dog training, and so I'm wondering, it sounds like it's going to be a difficult situation. It's none of the behaviors they've described are, I mean, they're all things I can help them with, that I have information for them about. So I'm not concerned about me not knowing what I'm doing. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about having to interact with people, especially teenagers, who possibly is not very motivated, is kind of what I'm wondering, because it sounds like to me mom is very busy with work, and she's working on her master's, and these two teenage daughters are kind of left on their own, is what I'm getting at. And you cannot produce an emotional support animal without some dedication. But my primary stressor is talking to them, speaking. What is it about speaking to people you don't know that causes so much anxiety? I would like someone to answer that. Is it because I don't know how they're going to answer my questions? Is it that deep down I am afraid I don't know what I'm doing? Because right now I just keep reminding myself, well, it's just for about an hour. You've talked about these things before to people. I have the material all organized right there. She'll have hers, I'll have mine. I have a index card to make sure I do it all in the right order, and so I mean I'm prepared physically, but I just wish I understood what was really behind social anxiety. I know it exists, and I know how to at least help it a little bit, and by God, I am taking a Xanax before I leave. But is, you know, some people are agoraphobic. Are they just agoraphobic out of the blue? Or do all agoraphobics have an agoraphobic phobic story that started out? Is my issue with these people tomorrow related to when I went to grade school? And I was excited, but at the same time, I was absolutely terrified to talk to someone. I so much could not talk to someone. Like, I didn't have any friends at this one point in grade school, and there was this new girl, and I saw her on the playground, and I know I've told this story before, and I thought, if I get to her before anybody else, she won't know what a dork I am, because if somebody else talks to her first, they're going to tell her to stay away from me. So she looks really nice. She doesn't look rich. She looks kind of poor. So I might have a chance, because I'm poor too. And I wanted to, and she looked so lonely. And I so wanted to go and talk to her. and I had been against the wall of the building, which is pretty much where I spent my time at recess. Um, and I just like couldn't figure it out. I could not peel myself away from that wall to say hello. It was just like painful. I mean, it was truly painful. Um, I did, though, manage to talk to her. It was it was like pulling my guts out, piece by piece, just a little by little. It it was just horribly. You feel it in your body. It's like you're trying really hard to get the momentum to go forward, and you're held back. And I'm like, is that really? Is it just the messed up wiring in my head? And it just picked social anxiety instead of fear of heights or, you know, cramped places? Or did I have a traumatic enough experience leading up to there that put me in the mindset of don't expose yourself to people because they will hurt you? They will think you're a dork, if I'm thinking in those childhood terms. Um, I mean, at that time, I had been called all kinds of names. So, um, do I still believe those things deep down inside that I'm not a likable person? Um, that if I get close to someone or even just act friendly, they're going to turn out to be nasty, which is something I learned at the animal shelter where I worked. Um, people can be all flowers on the outside, nothing but decay and dead in the inside. Nasty people. So I want you all to get on this, and I would like an answer to this question by next week. I'm going to bed. Bye.